Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinars, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, Techgig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give a crisp insight of various domains. Today's session is second in the Usability UI series, and topic for today's session is Experience Design Challenges and What Does It Mean to be the New Breed of Designer. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Sudhindra Vaikantishmurthy, Head of Experience Design, Sapient Nitro, India. Sudhindra is a certified usability analyst with over 12 years in various roles and capacities architecting user interfaces. He heads the experience design for Sapient Nitro in India and leads the capacity in client delivery and standards. He has extensive hands-on experience in the length and breadth of the user-centered design methodology, having led several medium to large projects across corporate banking, airline, news and media, drug discovery, healthcare, and IT domains. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we'll take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Sudhindra.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we can see your screen. Please open your PPT.
Yeah, so can you see the PPT now?
Yeah, we can see your PPT as well as we can listen to you. Please continue. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Sudhindra and I head the experience design practice for Sapient Nitro in India. Thanks a lot, every one of you to have joined. We will talk today about what is experience design, how has it come about all this while, and what are the challenges that we need to look forward to going ahead. Let's first begin by understanding what is an experience. We talk about experience design, but first let's understand what is an experience. We commute all the time. We move around in our cars. Let me take that as an example and try and talk about how an experience plays a part over here. We have traveled in various cars. How is a Porsche different? Let's take an example of Porsche Spider. It looks amazing. It looks extremely beautiful. Yes, looking beautiful is part of the experience, but that's not it. It's more than that. When you sit inside a Porsche, you know very well the comfort it provides. It's extremely plush and you get a sense of pleasantness. It puts a smile on your face. Yes, experience does that. But it's even more than that. When you start driving a Porsche, you can look around and see the envious eyes of other cars on your car. You feel a sense of superiority and power. Yes, that's an experience as well. But it's even more than that. When you get to where you want to go, a Porsche drives at a good speed, does a pretty good job of safety, and takes you to your destination. It gives you a sense of efficacy of going from one place to another. Yes, that's also an experience. So an experience is a combination of all of this. When you put a beautiful product, add a value to it, make it, when you become efficient using that product, what you are essentially doing is you're building a brand with that, you're building a relationship with that particular brand. That's what is an experience. But where does this all start? It starts right at the beginning. The relationship starts when you open the box. If we have seen the way Apple packages its products, an iPhone, for example, the box itself are treasured by many of us, right? That's where the experience starts. It starts the first time you walk into a store, the first time you interact with a personnel of that company or a brand. That's where the experience starts. Let's look at some in a little more concrete example of a business of experience. What exactly the business of experience is all about. We understood what is an experience, but let us look at the business of experience. Where does it lie? The experience zone lies right at the confluence of brand. That is, what are the objectives of the company. Then we have people that interact with the brands, the expectations of the people, their needs, desires, motivations. And there is a technology that enables this conversation, this connect between brand and people. Now the confluence of these three creates is what's called as the experience zone. Now this experience zone is what we're going to talk about today, and it has gotten complex. It has gotten pretty demanding. Why? Because our world has changed. The other day in our team catch-up, we were talking about the future of books, how the digital book is going to be in the future, in the coming future. But it's not the future of books that has changed, but the future of storytelling has changed. Caroline Smiles is a novelist who has recently launched a novel called 99 Reasons Why. Now that has about 11 possible endings depending on the reader's moods, reader's outlook, reader's preferences, and so on. It's a digital novel. Now if you can look at the way the storytelling itself has changed, the interactive way of storytelling has become it's a whole new world altogether right now, and that's where our world is heading to. Digital has become a part and parcel of our everyday life, and in almost everything that we do. Let me illustrate that even more with some statistics. Let's look at what has happened in the last 24 hours. We have added about 1 billion Facebook entries already, and quite a substantial of that definitely from India. About 70,000 hours of YouTube videos are uploaded, but 3 billion YouTube videos are viewed in a matter of 24 hours. 30 million apps are downloaded on iTunes, just in iTunes. 5 million mobile phones are purchased. And an interesting thing is that 25% of those are smartphones, which means you're enabling a lot more in terms of connect from a brand to a customer. So this numbers tell a story. They tell the story of where we are and how staggering the numbers are. But how did this happen? We'll have to go back a little while from now, about 15 years. The last 15 years, the digital evolution has been happening quite forcefully, as is shown over here, the history of more. The evolution of digital experience is generally thought of as a linear timeline, driven by technology, driven by the capabilities. But it is in fact drive the development of technology, as we will see. So the more we achieve, the more we want as we go along. Let's look at the first phase of our, first phase of the internet development of technology, right, or digital experience. In the beginning, it was all very heavily text-based. Low-powered computers, low-powered, modems. They kind of spread um, information more like conversations. The interface was simple, and overall it was generally an exchange of information. We moved on to the next phase where we saw companies like Amazon actually transacting online. They developed capabilities where you could pay and buy books. Similarly, you could also buy pizzas. Where there was revenue, advertising was bound to happen, and we saw banner advertising make its presence felt during this phase. We moved on and saw the development of multimedia through QuickTime, Flash, and we saw new opportunities for motion-based multimedia experiences. Then people they mastered these digital interaction schemes and wanted to adapt the same in their productive lives as well. They tried to be more productive. The search engines became the soul of internet browsing, actually. Microsoft launched their integrated suite of business tools. Email became the preferred method of communication. Moving on, again, the more we have, the more we want. We expected even more sophisticated entertainment and interactive entertainment at that in the form of gaming systems like Atari and Xbox. Technology and hardware upgraded processing speeds now. Right? Intel launched their more powerful processors, and the technologies, the hardware supported the overall needs for heavy softwares. Then what happened was, man wants to share. The community made its existence felt. Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. created groups of interest. Lost friends were found. A lot of us can recollect how our old friends of third standard is right now connected with us on Facebook. This happened because the community aspect of digital experience started building its base. iTunes developed a model of business around this community, a shared shared device, and then you had iTunes to buy all that content that you care for. We had bloggers, Twitters to share your thoughts. This was the period of community. Now we are looking at the next age of digital evolution, where we are going to look at how digital evolution is going to influence what's going to happen in the future. But for that, we have nearly a pivot point that happened sometime back on June 29, 2007, when the iPhone was available to the market. This changed the digital experience in such a way that it has become now irreversible. The digital has become well and truly multi-channel. Now you can expect the same kind of content to be uniform.
Hello.
In short, what happened was a convergence. Hello? Hello?
No, it's fine. Your voice was not coming, so now it's coming. It's fine.
Thank you. In other words, what happened was an age of convergence was born as we see it today. A convergence of community, service, content, and commerce. What binds them? The one that connects them all, the one that connects community with content, commerce, and service is digital. And that we can call as digital 2.0 going forward. Let's pause a bit over here and understand the significance of digital 2.0. It's about connectedness, it is about convergence, it is about continuity. It demands seamless interactions. It demands integrated experiences, channels, be it a PC, a mobile, tablets, or even digital wall. This has forced us in design can architect for them. How do you design for this kind of a want to create? We can, to make sense of digital 2.0, what we can do is we can draw upon our design studies from the past. One particularly apt model or an appropriate model that we can draw upon, or Kevin Lynch's a model, what is called as the 5 performance dimensions. He has written a book called Good City Farm, where the 5 performance dimensions are mentioned and spoken about in detail. They are vitality, that support natural rhythms; sense, that support the sense of context and place; fit, to match between the people and the surrounding environment; control, the degree to which things and objects of the environment are controlled by the users; and access, the ability to reach other people, services, information, or resources. These are the 5 performance dimensions that, when used in a good balance, is going to help us create some great experiences. Let's look at each of these with a few examples over here. Vitality, gesture-based interactions. We are moving away from a point-and-click experience to a frictionless experience. Kinect uses natural user interface and voice commands for gaming. This is almost like a precursor to what's going to be the future, where the physical interaction and a digital interaction will probably blend in pretty seamlessly. Similarly, the Siri, which is the recently launched, which made an appearance in iPhone 4S, keeps it very natural for people to talk and give them their commands, and then executes those commands very naturally. Supports a completely natural rhythm. Sense is about sense of context, sense of place. In the recently concluded India Art Fair, Sapient designed a concept of 12 bottles of absolute 12 bottles. Now we recreated the sounds of India in this particular way. When you lean your ears against this particular bottle, what you hear is sounds of Bollywood, sounds of marketplace, for example. Now this gives a sense of and the feel of India. Moving on, for a Nike fuel band, what they did was they've used the data or the new phenomenon called the big data to as a personal artifact. Now this particular project, the Nike fuel band, it captures the physical movements of users, of people throughout the day, and visually displays that in an app or a website. For control, we can look at some of the stores in the US where the in-store signage actually greets an iPhone user or an Android user. It provides exclusive offers for them. In addition, you want to see more details, you hold your phone and look at scan the QR codes on each of these items. What you get is even more details about that particular item or product. The last performance dimension of access, an example of that, a great example, is the Starbucks mobile payment. Now, Starbucks mobile payment has become quite a bit of a big thing in the US and some parts of Canada. How it works is that you go to a Starbucks store, you take your coffee, and then you launch an app, Starbucks app, on your phone. Now you pay through that particular app. Your phone is scanned for it. Now you get deducted of that particular amount from your app. 1 in every 5 Starbucks user is actually using this now, which talks a lot about it's launched pretty recently, and it has been adapted pretty well. This talks a lot about how the future of the payment is probably going to be. Moving on, another example of access, we have in Sapient, we did a project called Share Happy Vending Machine from Unilever. How it works is pretty simple. Stand in front of this vending machine, smile, and the machine detects your smile and then drops you an ice cream, a free ice cream. What can be better than a free ice cream just for a smile? But it doesn't stop there. You can share your smiles, you can share your photographs across your extended network of Facebook and all of your other social networks, and it becomes an extremely immersive experience for you. These are the different performance dimensions that that help us in creating enhanced experiences, complete experiences. Now, does it mean that what happens if there is vitality only, or sense and vitality? Now, you will be foregoing probably fit and access if you concentrate on only of those two. Now, it is important that we achieve a balance with all these 5, so the experience becomes seamless and something that's immersive. That's the performance dimensions aim. But what does this have to do with me and you as designers? How do we account for this? There are 3 powerful ways in which the new designer needs to be aware of. It needs to be first and foremost the evolving practices. There are practices that are coming up which are new that we need to account for. Then principles going beyond a design strategy or a creative brief. Then lastly, the designer himself has to be, you need to be a new breed of experience designer. You cannot do the same things that you are doing. You will have to do that more. we will have to do that even more smartly. These are the three things we will discuss on this section. Mobile internet users have surpassed desktop internet users in India. The fact is there is so much penetration of internet in the semi-urban areas where there are more mobiles than you know your desktops and PCs. Mobile penetration, the internet penetration is very soon. So you could design for touch or the mobile first. Luke Wroblewski was a principal designer for Yahoo. He's one of the well-known names in usability space and user-centered space. He has also written books called Web Forms and several other publications. He recommends to always start with designing for the mobile first. That way you are removing all the irrelevant content, keeping it extremely essential only content, because the mobile has its own limitations. You take that and then design, take it to a PC design or a tablet design. That way what you're going to do is you're going to keep it very essential and simple and straightforward. Now, responsive design means design adapting to various different channels, be it a PC, an iPhone, an iPad, or a Nokia phone, or a whole new smaller tablets, for example. A responsive design is aimed at providing a seamless and an extremely uniform kind of an interaction across these multiple channels. HTML5 is a great way to do that. It helps you do that. And there are, of course, other technologies as well that will help you do that. One example that comes to our mind is the modern bride wedding registry. As you can see, across all the different channels, be it an iPad, be it an iPhone, you see that the content and the layouts are seamless. The interactions are more or less same across, and you wouldn't really lose much going from a device to device. Another important thing that we need to consider while we are designing for evolving practices is to stop looking at things individually and go for an end-to-end kind of a design, what is called as service design. Because in this new age, the experience becomes a brand. Service design is an interdisciplinary approach that combines different methods and different tools from all the different disciplines and then creates a seamless experience. An example of that is Home Plus from Tesco. How does this work? So Tesco's branded retail stores in Korea is called the Home Plus, or the online brand is called the Home Plus. Koreans have very little time. They would like to have they'd like to save as much time as possible. When this Home Plus was not at all number one in the market when they tried to do this particular system, they were looking to enhance and penetrate the market, and one of the innovative ways they thought about was to create a virtual store in subway stations. As you can see in the picture, the products are displayed as they would be displayed on any store in a physical store. All that a commuter has to do is go and take pictures through and then scan the QR code of that particular product. Once you do that, it adds onto your online shopping cart. So by the time you get to home, your order is ready to be delivered to you. a great way to, and a very innovative way of actually making life, much simpler and nice, and providing a great experience for people along the way. An example of a service design. The second thing that we need to be aware of as designers is to create experience principles. Let me illustrate that with an example, with an HSBC example. HSBC's brand principle was we build experiences that build human relationships, we build experiences that build relationships. Now, when you add an experience component to it, when you put in a model a behavior to it, you will convert that statement to say we build digital experiences that build human relationships. So how does this work? Let us take the brand value of HSBC. Trustworthy yet innovative. That's the brand value. Now when you break this down into brand attributes, or even more, principles, primary principles as you might want to call it, what you get are progressive, approachable, considered, insightful, open, and so on. So you are breaking the trustworthy yet innovative, which is an extremely large canvas, into more sizable chunks where you can start discussing the design and the experience based on these attributes. We don't stop there. We go to further breaking it down into secondary attributes. In secondary attributes, what you get are even more specific stuff, such as contemporary, human, personable, quality, integrity, enlightening, and so on. All of these add up, bubble up into the primary attributes, and then of course they add up to the main important principle of trustworthy yet innovative. Now if you take an example here of the human as an attribute, how does that convert into an experience principle only for that particular element, human? The human experience principle says that we create interactions that feel like conversations. So what does this say? When you get specific over here, what happens is that you get a copy principle. You tell the copywriter with you that keep the copy conversational in nature. So this is how you came from being a brand principle of trustworthy became an extremely actionable experience principle, which means we create interactions that feel like conversations. Similarly, you can have all the other different experience principles for each of these attributes, and then you derive design and directions from each of these. As we discussed before, now it's also important to understand that we move from being a designer from as in the past to we become a new breed of designer. Now what does this mean? What does it mean to be a new breed of designer? You are an information architect, you are an interaction designer, you are a visual designer, you are a graphic artist, you are a strategist, you are a usability analyst. What you do is you take all of that and become an experience designer, which means you become a part industrial designer, you become a part product designer, an anthropologist, a psychologist. In the recently concluded event that we did here in Bangalore, there was a question. Does it mean that now I need to be a jack of all trades? Well, that's not the point. The point is you got to wear different hats. You got to wear different lenses at different stages and because you have a holistic experience to take care of. You don't have a silo to take care of. You have a holistic experience. So what you do is you wear the lens of an psychologist, for example. Designer. Let's look at, if you wear the lens of a psychologist, how does it work? You can draw a lot of information from the research that has already been done by various psychologists across, right? For example, as you can see, we know that people are more motivated as they get closer to a goal. It's easier to recognize information than recall it. People remember only 4 items at once. Now, you don't have to be a psychologist to do this research, but you've got to wear the hat of a psychologist and understand the nuances and the significance of each of these statements while you design. Similarly, an anthropologist's hat. An anthropologist is a keen observer who understands people, their cultural connotations, and then connects it with their environment. For example, Eric Laurier, he is a well-known ethnographer. What he understands is,
Hello.
he knows that putting a sofa in a coffee shop as opposed to chairs. Hello.
Sorry for interrupting. We can.
Hello?
There is an echo in your voice. Some background noise is coming. Can you please check?
Okay. I mean, I've not changed any settings here. Is there
I
something
think your
I can
voice
do?
is getting echoed.
I think maybe you should, I think somebody go on mute, I guess. I think that's the.
No, all
That's better.
attendees are on mute mode.
Okay. Okay. I don't hear an echo. I'll stop again if I hear one. Okay.
It's
Okay.
better
Coming
now.
back to designer as an anthropologist. Right. So what it means is, Eric Laurier, for example, I was giving the example of Eric Laurier. He knows that, you got to put a sofa in a coffee shop. What you do is you attract younger crowds. He understands how people behave at a snack bar counter, how they order breakfast, for example. There is a lot of these examples that in retail stores, you have the impulsive purchases right at the checkout. In the US, you have the diapers, the area for the diaper right next to where you get beer as well. Why? Because again, people have observed that when daddies go to buy diapers, they also pick up beer, because if they see a beer around, because they feel like it gets a little more manly. It kind of balances the fact that they're buying a diaper. So this has been observed, and that's the way it is in several stores. Similarly, Flipkart understood the user's India ecosystem and the way we do not trust our virtual systems, and they introduced a whole host of new things. Easy to pay EMI, great refund policies, and cash on delivery. All of these went a long way in establishing them as a trustworthy brand, and we can see that today in the business they do. Moving on, designer as an industrial designer. An industrial designer there is a lot of confluence and more of a integration between form and function now than ever before. You have new devices connecting to your apps. You connect your iPhone to your shoes, your the Nike Fuel Band we saw earlier. A lot of these involve some part of industrial components. It involves ergonomics as well. Recently, for example, we designed an interactive wall where we had to study how people are differently shaped and different they have different ways and means of accessing the wall. And people on an average are much smaller in the Asia Pacific region, in China, etc., as compared to their the Western people. Now you got to use ergonomics to understand that and ensure that the access points are well within the range of this population. So you would need to understand the form as well. So that is where you need to wear the hat of an industrial designer also. So this is a new breed of designer who combines form and function, who understands some bit of psychology, wears the hats of an anthropologist and industrial designers, and creates experiences. So we need to, from being artifact designers, we need to move on to become ecosystem designers, and that is the call for all the designers today in the digital 2.0. Thank you, and this brings to the end of my presentation. Thanks a lot.
Questions are already shared with you.
Okay.
Also, there's a lot of disturbance in the background.
Thank you. Somebody is not on mute actually. That's the problem. Okay, I have got a couple of questions over here. What is the similarity or difference between user experience design and responsive design? Well, it's a good question. User experience is more like a encompassing all of this. Right? Responsive design is a component of the overall user experience design. The output you get from a responsive design is user experience. So it's not about being a similar or different between those two, but rather seeing it responsive design as a part of the overall experience. And also, user experience design involves research. It involves understanding the user and the human factors aspects of it. Whereas responsive design in the industry language is more restricted to how it plays about in each of these devices, each of the different devices. Thank you. What are the second question that I have over here? What are the process and steps a designer should follow to achieve a responsive design? So responsive design, there are some new technologies like HTML5 and the latest CSS supports responsive design. What it does is it does the backend code in such a way that it kind of it fluidly adapts itself to different channels, whether it is a mobile, a tablet, or a PC. So, but a designer should understand that it is not about the technology only. It's about understanding the context. For example, if you're designing for an iPad, the concentration levels of for a person using an iPad are far different when he's using the same application on a PC. On a PC, your concentration is optimal. It's high. You are probably in an office environment. You are completely hooked onto the PC. Whereas you might be lying down on your couch when you use an iPad. Your concentration levels are different. You cannot ask people to do cognitively heavy tasks when you are designing the same thing for an iPad. A wizard might be a better idea, where rather than a single screen, which might work on a PC. So those are the basically it's about understanding the context and how you would adapt your design for various contexts in these different channels. Thank you. I have a few more questions over here. Let me go through them. There is a question that says, do you think if all systems or applications are built on responsive design technique, will we need the native apps? Well, it's a very, very good question, because there has been a shift from moving away from the app model to make the web itself, the website or the mobile website itself work like an app. So there definitely has been a shift. It is definitely very, very useful to do that, right? But of course, it has its own challenges as well. We are, I think, going back. If you look back, 15 years back, we had to install a lot of our stuff on each of our different machines. Now, web applications really eliminated the need for installing, spreadsheets, for example, on every machine. Now you can use across all your web applications work across everywhere you are. Now that was success. The desktop application provides it's still there, right? So it's more like a evolution of how the technology itself is able to cater to all of these different places, because you have some kind of a trade-off when you use everything in terms of responsive design. You definitely have those trade-offs, but the industry is moving towards this. They're trying to do away with the app model. Let us see how that goes. There is a question about, can you share some good resources or links where we can get periodic updates on the new advancements in the user experience? There are a few I can share right now. One of them that I heavily use is www.ixda.org. You have also boxesandarrows.com. You have Jacob Nielsen's useit.com. And of course, our Sapiens' very own links, the Idea Engineer blog that we host from Sapien Nitro. Again, a great resource to see how the experiences and user experience advancement is happening in the industry. So there is another question about how do we predict the behavior of the user personas? Well, I would probably rephrase this question. It's not essentially predicting the behavior of a user persona. There are three different. They're mutually exclusive. Predicting behavior and user personas are not. They're mutually exclusive, because you derive user personas based on your ethnographic or user research. Based on that, you understand how that persona or a set of personas behave when they encounter these artificial systems or digital systems. Now, based on that, you design systems for these different personas. So it's first of all, you need to study those users. So it's not a standard template where you start, where you can actually predict a certain user person. For example, a college-going, 16-year-old girl in an urban place in India, the way she would interact with a social network site is one way, whereas the way she would interact with a banking site is a totally different way. So it's not about having a persona which is uniform or where you can predict the behavior. It's about studying people in that particular context. That is where I think the wearing the hat of anthropologist or an ethnographer comes in. Well, there is a question, why have you kept the WinZip icon in the digital evolution of the history of Morse life? Thanks a lot for noticing, by the way. A very small icon, and thanks a lot for noticing. That means you've noticed the entire slides. Very happy about that. But it's because it's also about, as and when the data became a very important component of our experience, it was important to compress that data to make it more manageable. Now that's where WinZip came in, where you started compressing the data. You found technologies to compress the data. So that's why it is there. It is one of the ways in which the digital experience evolved as well. There is a question, where should a software professional start from a technology standpoint skill sets if he wishes to become a UX designer? Well, there are, I think first of all, it's important to understand what is, as we spoke about, it's important to understand the experience design as such. What is it? What does it mean? What are the different attributes you would need? You will have to start thinking big, start thinking, expanding your perspectives. Be ready to unlearn what you've learned, and that's where you actually start. So from a skill sets point of view, some of the tools we use are Adobe InDesign, VCO, and so on. But it's more than the tools. It's about understanding the people as such. That becomes the key in for us to deliver great experiences. And there are a host of these days in India, especially, we have a host of training that you get. There is a million gazillion resources available on the web that will help you shift your mind from being a technologist to a user experience person. Some more, I'm just looking through the questions right now. Some more. So there is a question about how is the market of UI designers in India, and there is another which is what is the difference between a UI designer and a UX designer? The market of UI designers. Now let us first understand what is UI designer versus a UX designer. So we spoke about the new breed of designer over here. So we have moved, we have evolved. So earlier, the UI designer user interface is just about getting a layout up there that matches the requirements of the clients. Now, you really don't know if the client has put in all the thoughts needed to get it up and running and working in terms of connecting with the audience. Have you accounted for the changing behavior of people? Have you accounted for people coming from various different kinds of profiles of people? Have you accounted for that? We don't know. It was more of a requirement. Take the requirements and do a design and please your clients, right? But you got to understand the human behavior, because there is so much of infiltration of irrelevant stuff today. A lot of us can't use our remotes effectively at our homes. So it becomes imperative to understand how people use the artifacts and then connect with our systems. That's where you become a user experience designer. You understand research, you become an anthropologist, you understand psychology, and then you design for human computer interaction. That's the difference between a user experience designer and a UI designer. And as for the market in India, India is pretty good actually, because the overall there definitely India has looking at Indian corporates are looking at enhancing their connect with people. And when we say people, it's not about 100,000 we speak about. We speak always in millions. So when there are so many people to connect with, it is definitely important that we have a strong user experience.
Hello. Your voice is not coming.
There's a lot more. Hello? Hello?
Your voice was not
Is it
coming
okay
for
now?
a minute. Now it's fine. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, it gives businesses have understood the need for a great user experience today. It's because as we've seen in some of the examples in the past, you could probably get away with probably a compromised user experience sometime back, a few years ago, but not now, because there are 10 others who are giving you that efficiency plus the experience. People have started expecting a lot more because they have understood that there are 10 other people who can actually provide me with that kind of a experience where I am valued. Now that's very important for people, and the connect of brand happens with the people only when they understand the human aspect of it. That's where the strategy is definitely, yes, there is some more way to go till it becomes an extremely mature kind of a strategy, but yet there is we've kind of over in the time, but there is a question which is again two questions which are related. Do you think an usability professional, UX professional should be technically savvy? And another related question, should a new breed designer possess technological aspect and hands-on with new coding technologies?
It's 4 o'clock.
Well, it's not about, again, being hands-on. It's not about being a hands-on psychologist. It's not about being a hands-on anthropologist. Because anthropological studies, for example, takes years together. It takes probably 10 years, 15 years for cultural studies to happen at several times. You wouldn't want to be hands-on with that. That's a very long time to be hands-on with that. So similarly, we are not looking for hands-on, technology coding, but we got to be tech savvy. We got to understand what would work and what wouldn't. Because at the end of the day, we are in business. We are answerable to our clients. We are answerable to a large set of stakeholders. We need to understand and be savvy about what is it that's a good, feasible kind of a recommendation I can make, a safe recommendation. And definitely those who are technically savvy prove, in my experience I've seen, those who are technically savvy prove to be better experienced designers in the longer run, because they kind of understand what needs to go there. But the danger is that you also have to unlearn. If you're a technologist, you also have to unlearn a lot of things so that you concentrate on the big picture. You think broad, you think from a human angle, and that's where the challenge is. But being savvy about technology, yes, it is going to be very helpful. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions, or at least most of the questions that I can see over here. I'm available as you can see. I'm also on the Techgig, so please feel free to share questions if you have any more, and I'll try and answer as much as I can. I hope you enjoyed this session. I enjoyed bringing it to you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Hello.
Example, we'll be having Mr. Aditya Khandekar, Head Analytics, Fiserv India, as a guest speaker. So see you all tomorrow at 3 p.m. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you.